sure.
Yes, try
one more time.
Right.
Yeah, you see how there's nothing else in there? Like just his head. I can't see that well there. If I open the lens here, that girl behind me, the focus becomes yeah, and then so if you just stick to
Hello, don't touch me.
Sure, don't worry. Let's go. How are you?
I'm okay, and I owe you an email. But I think I owe you.
Hello? Hello, hello. Hello?
Hello. Hello anyway. Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, there we go.
How's it going?
Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for coming to Future Film Festival this morning. Good morning and welcome to BFI. My name's Noel, I'm the Festival Director.
My name's Yaro and I am the Future Film Programmer.
Just got a few things that we wanted to mention before we kick off with today's keynote speech. If you were here yesterday morning and heard all this already, apologies. Yeah, we're going to do it anyway. So just wanted to point out to you about our amazing backstage area. Please make the most of networking opportunities there. If you don't know where the backstage area is, just see one of our volunteers and they can direct you there. The backstage area is delivered in partnership with Leys, our amazing sponsors, who are there to show you their latest technology, talk about the importance of storage and how their technology can assist your creative ideas. The area is also occupied by our friends at Access VFX, so you can find out about careers in the VFX industry, how to create your own VFX, and there's a number of workstations there as well, so you can have a little bit of a play around with the VFX, and you can also watch all the short films that are in the festival. Yari spent hours putting together this amazing library. Do go down there and check out the short films. There are also free tea and biscuits and juices and fruit, so go down there, help yourself, and chat to one another, chat to our industry guests who are there.
Lacey are also going to be running a session. It's on life as a filmmaker and how Lacey technology can optimize your workflow. And this will be taking place in NFT3 on Sunday at 3 p.m. And if you're around, you should try and catch that one as well.
Yeah, don't miss that. We also have a deal with our catering people here at Nugo. So if you want a nice coffee, you can go to the grab and go stand out there and get a coffee for £1.50 just by showing your festival ticket. Yesterday I think there was a little bit of issues with that. We've resolved it now. Just show them the any one of your Future Film Festival tickets and you will definitely be able to get a £1.50 coffee, and they'll sort you out with the lunchtime deals as well.
Okay. Don't forget, this evening we've got networking drinks. Now you will need a wristband to be able to access the alcohol. and we know how important that is. You'll need proof of age to get a wristband, okay? Does that make sense for everybody? So you should have done that already, but if you haven't, you can do that at our desk in the foyer.
Indeed. Actually, do you want to mention about the labs? You run the labs, you should mention it.
Okay, yes, so Future Film Labs is our monthly program. So it's like a little bit of festival every month between the festivals. It kind of keeps you going. So each month what we'll do is we will kind of start on a Saturday morning at sort of 12:30. We'll have a panel discussion with industry pros, some sort of workshop or masterclass, and then we'll finish it off with the classic Future Film networking drinks. That's happening every month. And one of the things that you can do while you're here at the festival is that you can grab an annual pass for those 11 events this year. So normally those tickets would be £6 each. Okay, £6 times 11 events is £66. Quick math. All right. So the festival part, the pass that you can grab while you're at the festival, up until Sunday this week, is £40. Do you see that? Bargain.
Less than £4 an event.
Mate,
cheaper than a pint.
I don't know how we do it. Do you know what I mean? We've gone crazy.
The other thing that you should do while you're here is sign up to our 25 and under scheme. If you're age 16 to 25, which I guess all of you are, you can sign up to our 25 and under scheme, and that will get you £3 tickets to cinema screenings here at the BFI. So make sure you do that.
And we'd also appreciate it if you'd follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Now, I know your mum's on Facebook, but do it anyway. All right? That's the first thing. Now, our friends at Leys are also running an Instagram competition where you can win a Leys hard drive. Last night, we gave away 2 terabytes. Okay? 2 terabytes for you to store all of that wonderful digital stuff that you're creating. So, all you need to do is take a picture from the festival today, okay? Post it to your Instagram, hashtag it, hashtag Leys, and hashtag Future Film Fest. We'll look at all of them, we'll pick the one that we think is the best picture, and that person will be awarded a 2 terabyte drive at the networking drinks. So if you didn't, if the alcohol wasn't enough to get you to the networking drinks, maybe the free hard drive is an extra incentive. Okay, so make sure you take take part, get involved in that, because you've actually got incredibly good odds. Do you see what I mean? Especially if you've got a good eye and you can you can take a nice photo. You never know. 2 terabytes. Ain't nobody can't use 2 terabytes right now. I know that.
Okay, thanks, mate. If you need anything at all while you're here at the festival, please come and see any of us, any of our lovely volunteers who are all wearing t-shirts. Please be nice to them. They're doing this for free out of the goodness of their own hearts and because they love the festival. So please be nice and to our volunteers. And other than that, enjoy the day. Have a really great time. Yara is now going to introduce Kate.
Yes, I have the honour of introducing Kate. So Kate Leys is a feature film script editor who works on projects at all stages of development. As well as working with screenwriters and filmmakers, she works with a wide range of producers, production companies, and film financiers. And she also worked on 3 of the 5 films. Think about this for a second, right? That's like, what, 60%? Of all of the films currently nominated for the BAFTA Award for Outstanding Debut. That's Kingdom of Us, I Am Not a Witch, and Lady Macbeth. She's been head of development at several companies, including Film 4, all right? And you guys are really lucky to have an opportunity to hear from her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Future Film Festival, Kate Leys.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it working? That was such a cool intro. I love that. I need to immediately just put in the caveat. I was the script editor on Kingdom of Us, which is one of those nominated films. I worked at outline stage on Lady Macbeth, so just developing the story at the early part, not through the whole script writing. And I am not a witch. I just did some work with Rongano, Nearly the filmmaker, just once at a sticky point in the development, which is kind of a good way, in a way, of introducing the nature of the way that I work. I can get involved in projects in different ways at different moments in their development. So let's cut back from my thrilling, my huge excitement of being introduced like that. Let me just, before I do anything else, I need to apologise for my really weird sounding voice. I've actually got flu, and I've been in bed for 3 days, so I'd like to offer a particular apology to you, who I just sat next to. And everybody in the front row, I would say, is at some risk of catching my flu, because I am just hideously, as you can hear, I'm just riddled with it. I have reanimated myself to come here today with a lot of coffee and a lot of day nurse. So you know that feeling where actually I am like a zombie, I am dead, but I have just been kind of animated by the drugs. The caffeine and the day nurse are keeping me upright. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go. Let's see, but please be on my side and bear with me. So yeah, I have a weird voice and a lot of germs. All right, so I work in the film industry as a story editor or a script editor. That means that I work with screenwriters, helping to guide them through the process of developing and writing and rewriting the scripts that they're working on, or the films that they're making, because I also work with, obviously, with writer-directors. I don't write myself, I don't direct, I don't produce. Like everybody in the film industry, I'm a specialist. It's one of the things that's really interesting about the film industry, is it takes a lot of people to make a film, but all of them are specialists in something. One of the things that I think is really interesting is the process of figuring out what your specialism is. It took me some time, it took me quite a lot of years, and it often does take us quite a lot of years to figure that out. My job is sort of like being an engineer. It's a technical job and a craft job and a creative job, and again I have that in common with a lot of people in the film industry. We all work in that sense in a kind of overlapping range of skills. I work freelance, again, like pretty well everybody in the film industry. So that means that, for instance, I don't get paid when I have flu, which is kind of annoying. But it also means that I get to run my life around my work. That's the theory, isn't it, of freelancing? In practice, it means that, of course, like everybody freelancing, I always say yes to everything, so freelancers are always overworked. In this country, there are very few jobs in the film industry. There is a lot of freelance work, but it's important to remember that we don't have big companies with big lists of employees in the same way that in the States, for instance, they have the big studios. And even there, you know, I don't know how many people the studios employ in relation to the head of population, probably not that many. Mostly I get hired by producers. Mostly I'm obviously working with writers and writer-directors. I work on all kinds of projects, huge budget feature films, tiny feature films, experimental films, short films, television, every style of film as well. So everything from comedy to, I don't know, horror, thriller, what is the opposite? Sometimes I work from the very beginning of a project all the way through to the end. Sometimes, as you've seen on some of those projects we talked about earlier, I come in and sort of zoom in and zoom out again later. Sometimes I ping back in during the editing process in the cutting rooms, and they'll sometimes ask me to go back in with a view of the story and see what the thing's looking like. All right, so that's who I am and what I do. I suppose I wanted partly to explain that because working in the area of development is slightly mystifying. Nobody's ever entirely sure what it is that I do, although the shorthand is I'm the person trying to get the story working better, which I suppose does make sense. You would think I would be the most important person in the mix. Tragically, I am not. You, basically, and my mum are the only people who know that I am currently so excited to be having worked on those 3 films, because my name isn't going to feature in any award list. There are no awards for script editing. All right, I only have a few minutes of your time. I sat down to think about what it was that I wanted to talk to you about, and I realised there are so many things. I could be like, you know, like a bit like all old people, I could talk to you forever about all the things I think you should know. I I realised that if I wasn't careful, I would still be here banging on at midnight. So I tried to focus it down. I tried to think, what at this moment in your lives do you actually need to know that I can usefully tell you? So what I know about is stories and storytelling. And I thought I could talk to you in quite abstract ways about stories and storytelling, but I decided it wasn't interesting enough or wasn't useful enough. It's one of the things about my work is my work involves me always having to think, what is helpful, what is valuable? Again, an opinion isn't massively useful. The technology, the craft skills about what's going on in a story, that's useful. So I was trying to think about what would be useful for you to know. The first thing I thought I would do is tell you some numbers, bizarrely, because like all story people, I am essentially innumerate. But these numbers, I think, are interesting. In this country, about 15 million people a month go to the cinema. That's a lot of people. That's a quarter of the entire population of this country buying a cinema ticket once a month. We don't talk about that much. We don't talk about what a huge success this industry is in this country. There's always a terror within the film industry of those numbers dropping. There's a constant anxiety that if we can see movies some other way, we will. But so far, over and over again, through the advent of all the other ways that we have of seeing movies, what has turned out to be the case is that if we can see movies some other way, we will, and we will also go to the cinema. So far, those numbers are absolutely holding. And as you can see, at 15 million people a month, they can drop some without it being a disaster. People in this country love the movies. People all over the world love the movies. It's really interesting that we like going to the cinema. We actually engage with the business of buying a ticket and going out and sitting in a room full of other people. I mean, you've probably got stories, I've got stories of, just recently somebody said to me, one of the most amazing things they found about watching Coco was realising as they sobbed that everybody else in the cinema was also sobbing, that they were collectively crying. And equally, we all know how much fun it is when you see something that's funny, that you're all laughing at the same time. Here's another number. The amount of money spent on film production in this country last year was almost £2 billion. That's a nice number. That's a lot of money. A lot of it was spent on foreign films that were being shot here. That's still a lot of money that's being spent in this country, and that's a lot of work for people working in the industry in this country. The reason I wanted to give you the numbers is this. I want you to know that this is a real industry, a really serious industry. It's not a kind of wafty, might be nice till you get a proper job industry. It's a real industry. It's a serious business, and it's worth a lot of money. Obviously, there is some very good news attached to that, and that is there is absolutely room in it for all of you. There is space for all of you in this industry, and then some. On the other hand, maybe it's also worth noticing it is a real industry. It's a serious business. It's worth a lot of money. It means that one of the things that you guys have to think about is what it is you're going to bring to that industry. It isn't a game. It isn't a messing about. It isn't, well, I'll just hang out here long enough until I've waited long enough and then somebody will give me a job and then that's me, I'm in. It doesn't quite work like that. And I wanted to look at that and think about why, and then think about what it is that you might need to do to address that. How can you figure out what your role is in this industry? When I started working in the film industry, I had no idea what script editing was. And in fact, had I but known it at the time, there were no script editors in the film industry. When I became a script editor in the film industry, there were no script editors in the film industry. So sometimes in this industry, you're in the business of figuring out what your role is and making it up. All right. I thought at this point, since I am a story editor, I would quickly tell you a couple of stories. Here is one of them. This is a story that comes up in a book by Elmore Leonard that's also been made into a film called Get Shorty. I've actually never seen the film. Has anyone seen the film or read the book? One person has. Good. Okay. So, it's a great book. I thoroughly recommend it. I don't know about the film. It features a gangster, an East Coast American gangster. Elmore Leonard's American, he writes American books set in America. So this guy lives in, I can't remember where, Florida or somewhere. and he is a kind of mid to low level gangster. He's a little bit rubbish. He gets himself into trouble in his area. I can't remember what he does. He does something stupid, steals something from the wrong person, causes some huge ruck up of some sort, and has to lie low for a bit. So he decides, as his plan for lying low, that he will go across the country and he'll go to California and lie low there for a bit. So he's out of the way for a few months. So he does, and after a few months, a friend of his calls him from the East Coast. I say, look, I've already infected 2 people. They're 3 rows back, so just it's coming your way. People look back, I'm just telling you now. Those are your first symptoms. This is a bad bug. So his friend calls him to say the heat's off. I think the guy he defended has been shot or something. Anyway, the heat's off. You can come back. You're fine. Come back from California. Come back and become a gangster again and go back to work. And Chili Palmer says, no, I'm not coming back. What do you mean you're not coming back? He says, no, I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to be a film producer. And he says, this friend says to him, what are you even talking about? You can't become a film producer. You can't just like become a film industry person. You're a gangster. You can't just go to Hollywood and then announce that that's what you are. And Chili says to his friend, no. He says, you don't get it. He says, I've been here for a while and I've been looking around, and I can tell you something really important about the film industry. There's no one in charge. There's nobody in charge here. There's nobody to tell me what I can do and what I can't do. It's a great observation, because I only read this a couple of years ago. I've worked in the film industry my whole life, and I hadn't thought about it that way. But Elmore Leonard is absolutely right. Chili Palmer is absolutely right. There is nobody in charge. It must have been funny for Leonard entering into a relationship with the film industry to look around him and realise that. There's nobody in charge. There is nobody. This is the upside of there being no structure, no infrastructure, and no real jobs. Since everybody's making it up as they go along, you can too. There's nobody in charge. There's nobody determining whether you can or can't make a film, whether you're in or out of the film industry. In fact, there is no in. So here's the second story I wanted to tell you. Every year, as I'm sure you know, half the film industry from all over the world decamps to Cannes, to the International Film Festival there. The photographs you see back from Cannes are all of the screenings. There are screenings, big red carpet screenings, one a day, of the films that are in competition. That's what the news you get. But the reality is, the reason Cannes makes the noise that it makes has got absolutely nothing to do with the screenings. The screenings, when you're actually there, are neither here nor there. The vast majority of people who go to Cannes as delegates to take part in the film festival or the film market never go to any of those screenings. What's really happening is business. What's really going on at Cannes is the raising of money, the exchanging of scripts, the discussion of deals, the planning of collaborations. Those are sometimes formal and sometimes informal. It's about a big meeting place. I have to be honest and tell you that it is hell on earth. I don't have to go anymore because you really don't need a script editor there. But I did my time going, and it's actually not fun. Everybody should do it once. Sooner or later go. You can fly on EasyJet, find a floor to sleep on, go and do it for 2 days and come back, and you'll know that it's miserable, because the film industry en masse is not always the most enjoyable place to be. Nonetheless, here's the story I wanted to tell you. One of the things that the companies who go to Cannes do is that they need offices to hold all their meetings in. What they tend to do is rent rooms in the very, very big, fancy, smancy hotels on the seafront at Cannes. So again, the piece of film you sometimes see is swooping down that seafront, and there are palm trees on the sea on one side, and huge, huge, huge hotels. There's about 4 of them, absolutely immense, super grand hotels. The rest of the year, they're hotels. During the Cannes Film Festival, all the bedrooms are turned into offices. And one of the things that always strikes me when I am there is this. The film companies are all in those offices. So, everybody's there. Fox is there, and Sony is there, and the small companies are there, and the cool companies, and the old-fashioned companies, and all of them. They're all there in those offices. At the front door, the French police put out those kind of crowd crash barriers. They just put them out to kind of hold people back so that the cars can deliver people and all the rest of it. And there's always a crowd, because everyone's hoping that maybe a celeb will go in and out of the meetings. I guess maybe they think that people will be staying in the hotels, but they're not. Maybe they're going in and out of the meetings. One of the things that really strikes me when I'm there is this. It's a hotel. There is no special entrance fee or ticket or pass that you need. It's a public building. So I'm always struck by the people who choose to stand behind the crash barriers and the people who choose to walk in the door. Because actually, it's a hotel. You can walk in the door. You can walk down those corridors and put your head round every door and go, oh, hello, are you Fox? And they, you know, if you sound serious enough, they'll at least give you a business card. Oh, and hot tip, if you do go, a business card is a very good pass into a party, because then you're a Fox executive. Sorry, that's really bad of me to say that, but it is true. So that's how easy it is to walk in. You can walk in and go picking up business cards, and if you want to, you can leave your script. Whether or not they'll read it or not, who knows? Almost certainly not, but at least you've gone in and done the business. Again, go back to the door. Remember, it's a choice. There are people who choose to wait, and there are people who choose to just walk in the door. There isn't actually anything stopping you walking in the door. So just like Chili Palmer noticed, nobody's actually in charge. It's up to you what you do. So I guess what I'm wanting you to take from this is what you need to do in order to figure out your role, in order to develop your skills and your talents, in order to identify what it is you're going to do in the film industry, how it is you're going to join, is not wait. Don't keep sitting around on the outside wondering how you're going to get in. What you need to do is start doing it. What you need to do is do what a lot of you I know are already involved in doing, which is making films. That's what you need to be doing, and you need to keep doing it, and you need to do it a lot. What you need to do is not wait to get into the film industry up there, but generate the film industry around you, around the sides of you. You need to get on with it. It actually means two things. Number one, it means making films. Number two, it means going to see films. Go and see films and learn when you're doing that how ruthless you are when you're in the audience. It's very, very important that you remember that, because good enough is never good enough in the film industry. When you're in the audience, when you're buying a ticket, how pleased are you when the film is good enough? You're not. So you're going to need to make a lot of films, even if they are 2-minute, no-budget films that you make on your phone, especially if they are 2-minute, no-budget films that you make on your phone. Because every single one that you make, just like me, every single script that I read teaches me something new. Every film you make, you will learn more. You will find out more about who you are and what it is that you think. And the reason for that is the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is this. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? What's important to me, to the film industry at large, about having you in it? Because it does matter, and it is important. I wanted to talk to you about your voice, the thing that you bring to the cinema, the thing that you bring to the films that you make. We know that storytelling is storytelling, right? The films that you make will follow a style or a form or a shape or a genre or a tone that is whatever it is. Maybe you're an animator, maybe you're a horror nut, maybe you're a feature film person, maybe you're a TV comedy person. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the form is. You'll find your form, you'll find your language and your zone. What does matter is what you bring to the stories that you tell us, what you put into the films that you're making. It's hugely important, and it's the thing that makes your story different from all the other stories that are out there, and makes you different from all the other storytellers that are out there, which is why we need you. What you bring to a story that you tell is whatever it is that you want to tell us, the thing that you want to say, the thing you want us to go away understanding that we didn't understand before. Your style, sure, your tone, your look, your world, because even if you live in the next room to me, your world is not the same as my world. What you see is not the same as what I see, and not the same as whatever the person sitting next to you sees. What you bring is yourself. That's your voice. You bring meaning and surprise, character and truth. Truth is important. It's worth remembering that that is finally the thing we ask of all our artists. It's the thing we ask of painters and composers and singers, stand-up comics. especially stand-up comics. You know the difference between a stand-up comic doing patter and a stand-up comic who's telling you something that's so true that it's almost gone to not being funny anymore. That's the stuff we hold our breath for. What we ask our artists to do is go to the places we don't want to go to, and to get naked when you're there, and then come back and show us what it's like. It's a hard job to do, which is why the rest of us don't want to do it. That's why I don't want to make films. That's why the vast majority of people don't want to make films. But it's a hugely important job, and it's one we know is important. That's why we need you to do it. What you have to remember, though, when you're showing us what you see is this. We will know, just as you know when you're in the audience, whether someone is telling you the truth or whether they're not. If you show us something that's truthful, something that shows us what it really feels like, as opposed to what you'd like us to think it feels like, or what you think we expect it to feel like, if you show us something that's truthful, we will respect you, because you're showing us something important. Even a small truth is rare and significant. If you show us something that you think we want to see, or something you think should be in a movie, or something that you wish was true, then we will lose interest in you in a heartbeat, just as you have done probably countless times in the cinema. We will know that what we're seeing is cheap and shallow, and we'll be bored by it. Key thing to remember is this: there's nowhere to hide when an audience is really looking at you, and in the cinema, we really look at you. So, in conclusion, audiences are very flexible. You're flexible, I'm flexible. We love story. We love pretty much all story. We don't worry a lot about the things that a lot of people in film think we worry about. We don't mind what your story is. You don't mind what stories are, right? You don't care if it's about penguins or serial killers or funny people falling in love with each other. We don't care if it's a story you made up or a documentary. Why they think that this big new thing that we'll watch documentaries, I don't know. We'll all have turned out for documentaries forever. Tell us a really great story, we don't mind what the form is. We don't care if it's animated or in 3D or 3 hours long or 3 minutes long and I'm watching it over your shoulder on somebody's phone. We actually really don't care. We don't care what the budget is, we don't care what the film stock is, we don't care what language it's in, and we don't care whether it has stars in it or not. And both of those last two are covered beautifully by Slumdog Millionaire, which was more than 50% in Hindi. Nobody even noticed. In fact, literally nobody even noticed, because the film company had promised the distributors that it would not be more than 50% in Hindi. No one timed it. What do we care about? We want a beginning, a middle, and an end. Not necessarily in that order. We want to know what's going to happen next. We want to wonder what's going to happen next. We want to be that hooked into your story. We want you to remember that we're there, paying attention. We're not stupid, we don't need it spoon feeding. We're awake, we're asking questions, we want to know what's happening next. We want you to remember that you're telling us your story. We care that your story makes sense to us, that it speaks to us, and that it's truthful. So that's why your voice really matters. That's why you taking part in the film industry really matters. Whatever it is you have that you want us to see, whatever the true thing is that you can see about your experience, that you can put onto the cinema screen, that's going to be the thing, amazingly enough, that we turn out for, that we buy our tickets for. So, that's really all I have to say. I wanted to say, as loudly as I could, keep doing it, because it really matters, and we really need you in there.
Kate Leys, thank you so much. Massive round of applause. Excellent, great. That was wonderful. Thank you, Kate. Right, so we're off to our first sessions now. So if you want to kind of make your way to the venues, please do that. If you're in here in